This is Rick Green. He's on a televangelist's kind of stage, Hank Kunneman. Really close friends with Kenneth Copeland, has worked with him a billion times in the past. So I want to listen to what Rick Green has to say. Bound to be psychotic. Let's give it a listen.
The problem is I don't have the mane, so without the dark hair, I can't impersonate either of these guys. So I'll do my best. So I actually began the bad dad jokes by wearing what Hank calls my lawnmower shirt. So I did that just for y'all. And I've been working on this, Hank, so that I can mow down all the lies of the enemy.
Okay.
What? All right, I tried. Okay. So listen, here's the scene, all right? We got a nation at war, civil war, literally split down the middle.
Literally? No, I think that our continent is still literally intact, but okay, go on.
One side has all the political power, and they're using it to silence, persecute the other side.
That's true, but he's trying to claim that the left has all of the political power and is persecuting the right. Persecuting innocent Christians. Like, this is insane. These people are in another dimension. And, you know, I thought about it, and in my opinion, I think that Rick Green specifically, close friends with, like, Eric Metaxas and Kenneth Copeland and others, I think that he knows that he's full of shit. I think he knows he's lying here. I was listening to Eric Metaxas' book recently, Letter to the American Church, and he was talking about how Dietrich Bonhoeffer would agree with him and how the church in America is in the same position that the church in Germany was in the 1930s. You know, how the church in Germany was silent and everything. Literally all of that is a lie. Like, everything that he said there is a lie. And this guy is famous. I mean, not this guy. I mean, Eric Metaxas, this guy's friend. He's famous for writing a book about Dietrich Bonhoeffer. It's supposed to be a scholarly work. It wasn't. It was full of lies. But how does he not know that Dietrich Bonhoeffer explicitly contradicted the things that he said in his book? How does he live with the fact that, like, Bonhoeffer explicitly defined nationalism and said that nationalism is an evil, like a blight on society? He couldn't have possibly not known Bonhoeffer said that. These people lie like they breathe. It's truly disgusting, honestly.
Even attempted on multiple occasions to assassinate the leader of the opposition.
He's saying the left attempted on multiple occasions to assassinate the opposition, except the attackers were not on the left. They were voting Republicans, and he's implying it's an orchestrated effort, planned from the top down, from the presidency of Joe Biden all the way down the line. And that's just bullshit. It's just a lie. This guy used to be a judge. He knows it's a lie.
Persecuting the religious leaders of the opposition. The other side is just a ragtag bunch of deplorables. But they're starting.
You know, for the record, Hillary didn't say that the right were deplorables. Okay, she said the vast majority of people on the right are just normal voting, tax-paying members of society, been, you know, living their lives, doing their thing, hanging out with their family, going to church, and they just have always voted Republican. And then there's a basket of deplorables who love Donald Trump because he is a Nazi, or they love his Nazi qualities about him, basically. She didn't say exactly that, but you get the idea. And this guy's identifying with the deplorables explicitly, not with the right, with the deplorables.
Starting to get a little scrappy and win a few battles here and there. Their cause is obviously righteous, and therefore it's drawing more people to their side. And the viciousness of the opposition has caused a lot of people, because they're abusing the law, because they're abusing tradition.
How? In what way? Who on the left is abusing the law and or tradition? You know how many traditional norms Donald Trump violated while in office? Like, a lot. So I don't want to hear it. This guy is so full of shit, and he knows he is. You cannot convince me otherwise.
Because they're literally trying to destroy the other side, which are actually their own countrymen.
Nobody on the left's trying to do this.
The group that's in power starts to lose some of its leaders. In fact, some of the people that start walking away are essentially royalty of that side.
Royalty? What are you talking about, bro? I wonder if I can. No, I thought maybe I'd be able to. Damn, probably wasn't a good idea. I thought maybe I'd be able to phase through the ceiling, but I guess not. Never mind.
They've been with that side their entire lives, their parents, their grandparents, and yet they are going to switch sides because of just how evil things have become.
The left has not, quote unquote, become evil.
They actually, this group that is switching sides.
Hey, welcome, Hellbound Hillbilly. Good to see you.
They have this gift of discernment. They know what time it is. Or as First Chronicles tells us, they understand the times and they know what to do.
It's tying this back to biblical stuff. This is insane. And why do they have Samus and a morph ball behind them? I don't understand. Why is this happening? Anybody else notice that?
When the sons of Issachar switched sides and joined King David, the Bible tells us there were 200 of them. 200 of these leaders of Issachar that understood the times and knew what to do. But those 200 brought with them their brethren, which we see elsewhere in First Chronicles was 87,000 that would go and join King David. Why do I tell you that story? I know you were probably thinking I was talking about another nation at war, where one side is trying to assassinate the leader of the opposition.
Yeah, he's talking about the U.S., of course. He led with that, basically. But okay, go on.
And
God, this guy's so full of shit. I can't stand
doing
it.
everything they can to persecute them. I tell you that because I think we're in a moment right now where the sons of Issachar are stepping up, where there are people that would have never thought of joining, even with the church and with Christians and with constitutionalists like us.
Oh my God, that's what my brother calls himself, a constitutionalist. Is my brother? He can't be an evangelical. He can't be. He's not an evangelical. He's an atheist. He doesn't believe any of this shit. He left Jehovah's Witnesses behind. Like, you can't convince me he believes any of this. It's just like, it's bizarre to me how they've created this kind of, this dome, this sphere from which people cannot escape. You can't pierce this bubble that they're in. It's just wild.
And locking shields with folks like the Flashpoint Army and all the other groups that are coming together. There are people that are actually completely switching sides, even though for their whole life and their parents' and their grandparents' lives, they've been on the other side.
Who? Who's doing that, Rick? Specifically, tell me exactly who you're talking about. He's full of shit here.
It's really, honestly, I don't know, maybe Hank saw it. I didn't see it. When you got guys like Robert F. Kennedy,
Ugh, God.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, those two are hard right extremists.
Joe Rogan's right there. He's almost there. He's not quite there, but he's almost there. I mean, these.
That's interesting. I appreciate the acknowledgement. I'm going to write that down, actually. Joe Rogan is almost a far-right nutcase. Rick Green.
Robert F. Kennedy. I don't know, maybe Hank saw it. I didn't see it. When you got guys like Robert F. Kennedy, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan's right there. He's almost there. He's not quite there, but he's almost there. I mean, these are lifelong Democrats.
No. Elon Musk wasn't even in the United States. He grew up in South Africa. How could he be a lifelong anything to do with, like, American politics? I believe he's an atheist, though. He's always been an atheist, I think, in my opinion. He knows Richard Dawkins, and he used to, like, really respect Dawkins a lot. I don't know. That's just the way I see it.
Folks that have never supported our kind of folks, certainly not supportive of the church, and even now would in Elon's case, call himself a cultural Christian, but not a Christian. And yet I truly believe they're men of Issachar. They understand the times and know what to do. I think God's using them.
He's a cultural Christian. That was an interesting thing to say, right?
To help us get to that point exactly that Hank was talking about, to get back to a nation that has all of those blessings that we often talk about. You know, we talk about the blessings of liberty. We talk about America being great and America having all of these things. But right now, America's sick. If we're going to honestly understand the times, this is where I'm really going with this tonight, is are we going to be men and women of Issachar? Do we understand?
Are we going to fight in the Civil War, is what he's saying. Are we going to fight in the Civil War? Holy shit, bro.
Understand the times, and do we know what to do? Are we willing to do what we've been called to do, which is to be good stewards of all that we've been given? I thought,
good stewards. And in his mind, that means literally fight a civil war to impose their will upon the people around them. By the way, check out my book, owenmorgan.com. I have multiple. That one's coming out soon. It's about what Hitler's religion was, basically. and what he did with religious movements at the time. Like, was he pro-Catholic? Was he anti-Catholic? Was he pro-Protestant? What was the deal? I talk about all of it in there. OwenMorgan.com should be in the description also. If it hasn't released yet, it will soon, so keep a lookout. Also, check out my Patreon and watch the video to the end. It would be really helpful because YouTube bases, video reach off of watch time.
Your verse for the offering, spot on. Because what we've sown into the American culture for the last 50 years, we're reaping right now. And we have an opportunity to flip that on its head. And to now, just like Hank was saying, start sowing the good stuff in so that we can call upon God and say, okay, God, we've been sowing the good stuff.
Good stuff, quote unquote. When he says good stuff, what he really means is absolute psychotic nonsense. And he's correct in saying that they've been injecting psychotic nonsense they've been building this movement into what it is today for 50 years about. He's totally correct on that. Especially with like Jerry Falwell. He was so influential in American politics, it's ridiculous. Bonhoeffer, Dietrich Bonhoeffer from World War II even commented on it. Or his friend Eberhard Bethke commented on it. Like his best friend lived with him, shared a bank account, the whole 9 yards. Said that basically Jerry Falwell American-made gods are false idols or something to that effect.
We've been sowing the good stuff, and we've been following your laws, and we want to see that reward on the other side. We want to see that fruit that comes from sowing those things. And so tonight we're going to talk about how to do that. How do we become men and women of Issachar? How do we maintain the blessings of liberty in
How do we engage in this civil war?
America and preserve them for our kids and our grandkids? I look at the nation right now, and I'm unapologetic about the fact that just like Hank just said, I love my country. I love God, and I love my country. And
I don't even know that I believe that fully. I'm sitting here trying to think to myself. I don't know. Does he really love his country? I don't think so. If he does, he loves other things way more, like Christian nationalism. What does he mean by love your country? I mean, when I think love your country, I think like love the Constitution and the values that it stands for and everything. He does not love those things. He wants to erase the Constitution. He doesn't like the things that the Constitution says.
And the people that make up these pejorative terms of, dominionist or Christian nationalist or
what? I didn't make those terms up. You did. Those are your terms. And now suddenly he's upset that we're using his terminology? Are you shitting me right now?
Whatever else they're going to call us next week. I'd like to remind them that it's actually Satan's idea not to be a nationalist.
Holy shit, dude. It's Satan's idea not to be a nationalist. I gotta write this one down too. This is insane. 43. It's Satan's idea not to be a nationalist. So, hold on, I'm just looking through here. The defining feature of the Nazi Party in Germany was nationalism. That's what people think when they think about Nazis. They are thinking about nationalism. They may not even realize that that's what it's about. The name was National Socialist, or Social Nationalists is another way to say it. And socialism at the time, by the way, is not synonymous with communism. They hated communists. It was just basically caring about workers' rights, caring about the blue-collar worker, the little guy, kind of like Donald Trump pretends to. Anyway, the social nationalists, or the National Socialists, were the Nazis, and that's what they built their entire brand on, was nationalism. This belief that their country and their demographic, their religion was superior to all else, and they deserved to control everything, to run the government and everything else. In fact, they didn't just deserve it. They were ordained, anointed by God to be something special. That was the National Socialist belief in the 1930s, 20s, and 30s. By saying that he is a nationalist like this, he is identifying with the Nazi Party inherently. As the thing that made them what they are, nationalism should be viewed with absolute disgust. And Eric Metaxas, he brings this up in his book, Letter to the American Church, and he said, if the Lord has chosen America and the American church to stand against the evils and deceptions of this present darkness, we'd better be sure we understand what is required of us and had better make sure we do all that's possible to fulfill our charge. So he believes, as well as Rick Green, that they have been chosen by God, anointed to fulfill a purpose in this country. The United States has been chosen. In the book, I write, Justice Houston Stewart Chamberlain, Eric Metaxas believes God uniquely chose his country to fulfill a purpose. The country's been chosen and anointed by God. The idea is the definition of nationalism, and that's precisely the trap the German church fell into. It is exactly what nationalism is. So I find it so interesting that he is endorsing nationalism. He is endorsing Nazi extremism. Whether he's endorsing the ideology itself is another thing entirely, but he's endorsing the degree of extremism.
Ever since the Tower of Babel, he's wanted to make everyone the same. God created boundaries and created nations.
Oh my God, dude, this is crazy.
And expects us to be good stewards of the nation where we're planted. Now, listen, if we were planted in Peru or planted in Russia or planted in some other nation, God would call upon us to be good stewards of what we would be given there and to do the best we could to take care of and tend the garden where we're planted.
Yeah, but that's not what he's saying. That's not what he's telling us that God told him to do in America. He didn't say that Russia was specially anointed by God. To be something uniquely special, unique in its charge to control the world. He didn't say that. He said it was America that God chose for that purpose. Holy shit, bro. This is, if somebody like took a recording of this back to like the 1980s, or hell, you know what? If they took this recording, honestly, to Germany today and played it for German school children, they would immediately identify it as a crime, as the crime that it is. As they say, assassination and genocide, just like assassination and genocide, fascism is a crime, not an opinion. What this guy is kind of proposing is a fascist takeover of the U.S. government because God told him that that's what he should do. This is
the best we could.
This is like new levels of insane. Seriously. Oh my God.
God would call upon us to be good stewards of what we would be given there and to do the best we could to take care of and tend the garden where we're planted. But friends, you've been planted in the United States of America. And therefore you have a responsibility, just like I do, to be a good steward, to take good care of what God's given us. And so I'm going to try to challenge a few things, maybe some ideas out there about the Christian's role in a nation. Because we are so scared of being called Christian nationalists that we almost don't even want to be called Christians and also be in favor of our nation at the same time because somebody might get confused.
Right. So this is what I'm saying. Like, I didn't make up the term Christian nationalist. These people are embracing the term. Why does he think that he's, it's being used as a slur against him or whatever? Nobody's using it as a slur against Christians. We're using it as a factual descriptor, as he is right now.
So what do they mean by this Christian nationalist thing? What they're trying to conjure up in your mind when...
I'm not trying to conjure up shit. It's him conjuring it up.
So what do they mean by this Christian nationalist thing? What they're trying to conjure up in your mind when they say that, the phrase is specifically created by leftists.
Oh my God, dude. Left-wing people did not invent the term Christian nationalist, okay? Oh wow, check that out. My hover bike is wedged. That's funny. I've never seen that before. Glad I caught that on camera, right? Damn. Okay. That's really fun. I must have been exactly correctly positioned for that to have happened.
To make you think theocracy. They want you to think that if Hank and I are for actually being good Christians.
By the way, welcome, Nerico. Glad you made it. Picking up meds, I see. Okay.
Created by leftists to make you think theocracy. They want you to think that if Hank and I are for actually being good Christian citizens and actually living out God's word in every area of our lives and actually doing that in the world of politics, that we are somehow going for a theocracy.
Brother, I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything, okay? That is what he is trying to convince people to do. Holy shit, man. Look, all I have to do is play your words. I don't have to add commentary to it. I can play your words for people, and it's immediately obvious what's happening. Now, again, I wrote about this at length in my book. It's releasing sometime in the near future. This month, I believe it will be releasing. So keep a lookout for it. It's about Hitler's religion. Still haven't really decided on a name, but it'll be on my website, owenmorgan.com. In the book, I talk about separation of church and state. And I talk about like Eric Metaxas, his friend, and the kind of Christian nationalist like belief system and where it came from and where it's going and everything. And I point out that
Doing that in the world.
Right. Eric Metaxas talks about how it's not like telling churches not to talk about politics from the pulpit, as the Johnson Amendment does. Like you lose tax exempt status if you talk about politics from the pulpit. Eric Metaxas says that is effectively like the government controlling what churches say from the pews. Now, I'm sure I don't need to point this out, but that's not what this is. That's not what's happening. To be a nonprofit organization, any nonprofit, it means that you're not paying taxes to the government, i.e., you're being subsidized by the government. You're being subsidized because you're providing a public good. That's the idea. And if you're and if you're being subsidized, then you cannot talk about politics. That's the deal. Or you can talk about politics. You can't specifically endorse or oppose specific candidates, parties, or campaigns. That's the law. You can talk about abortion until you're blue in the face. You can talk about gay marriage or whatever. You can even talk about specific policy proposals, but you cannot endorse candidates for public office individually. You can't tell your parishioners, God wants you to vote for this person, for example. That's what the Johnson Amendment does. That's what it's for. Now, in this guy's mind and in Eric Metaxas's mind, this is the government controlling what they say. And they say, if I'm just exercising my freedom of speech and my freedom of religion to do my thing or whatever. But think about why that rule exists for a moment, okay? It's such a milquetoast rule, really. You have to pay your taxes if you endorse a candidate. Like, there's so many ways around it, but they can't even just deal with that. Okay, think about what that rule protects society from. Think about Germany in the 1930s and what was happening, since he talks about it and since Eric Metaxas talks about it so much. There's a movement called Positive Christianity. Its adherents called themselves the German Christians. And it made up around 15 to 20% of the church, about as many people as our Trump supporters today. It was very, very big and influential. Not only that, but there were two major church bodies in Germany. There was the Protestant church and there was the Catholic church. And the Catholic church had their own thing going on. But the Protestant church controlled 28 districts in northern Germany, 40 million adherents to the religion, 18,000 pastors. And of those 18,000, we had, 15 to 20% that were German Christians, right? Now, these German Christians, adherents of positive Christianity, had the stated explicit goal of basically removing the Old Testament from the Bible, removing all of Paul's writings from the Bible. No more writings from him, because he was a Jew, basically, and keeping only what was in the gospel accounts mostly, and keeping some other later letters and texts that were not written by Jews. And by removing certain Bible verses, certain chapters and books, they changed their doctrine dramatically. It took so little to change it, just a little bit, and it led to dramatic differences in the religion. So the German Christians had state power because Hitler put his thumb on the scales to weight it in favor of the German Christians during the church elections to determine who was going to lead the overall governing church body. Basically, there was a vote. The church districts, the 28 districts, chose a guy named Bodelschwing, who I believe ran a charity hospital for children or something in Bethel, Germany. I don't remember. Maybe that was Bishop Worm. Anyway, he won the church elections at first, and then Hitler ran a big harassment and slander campaign against him until he resigned. They hold new elections, and basically the government endorses a specific politician. The specific politician they endorsed happened to be a German Christian, a positive Christian adherent, a Nazi. Now, I get that Rick Green believes that's not what's happening right now. I understand that. But just for a moment, pretend that it could. Just pretend for a moment that a massive sect of Christianity that this guy disagrees with is this close to political power and is normally like recognized from church or from government institutions. 95% of the people in government are members of this specific denomination of Christianity. Just imagine for a moment. This is how Germany fell because of the church. What he's doing right now, these people complain about the church's silence or what the church should have or could have done or whatever. You want to know what the church should and could have done in Germany to prevent this kind of thing from happening? Ban their adherents from, or let me rephrase, ban their pastors and bishops and all of their religious leaders from instructing members to vote for a specific person or for a party or whatever. That's what they could have done, and it would have gone a long way. Would the Nazis still have taken over? Maybe. Probably, I would say. The church could have done a lot more than just that to guarantee that the Nazis didn't take over, but that would have been a good step. But if he wants to prevent Nazis from taking over, then you have to protect against that kind of thing. And as a matter of fact, after the Allies took Germany in 1945, after like Hitler died and all that, the Allies banned the churches from talking about politics in the pulpit. You go to jail for doing that. You'd be fired for doing that because preaching politics from the pulpit is what got them into this mess in the first place. This is what caused it. So this guy is telling us right now that nationalism is a good thing. Exactly what the German Christians said, the Nazi sect of Christianity. Exactly, word for word, what they said. And he's telling us we should be endorsing politicians from the pulpit. Exactly what the Nazi Christians said, word for word. And he says we should not fall into the same trap that German religious adherents fell into. Bro, that's exactly what you're doing right now. You're quoting it. It's so on the nose with how similar the statements are that I'm wondering if he read what they said in a book and is now trying to repeat it. That's how similar his statements are to the Nazis. So the point here is, if he wants to prevent Nazi Germany from happening again, if he wants to correct the wrongs that the church perpetrated in 1933 to 1945, he should be doing the exact opposite of what he's doing right now. He is seemingly setting out to make it worse.
Of politics that we are somehow going for a theocracy. We're not.
I don't know why he's denying this. Yes, he is. Of course he is. He has specifically said so vocally from his mouth to our ears. He has said, we want a theocracy. Why is he even pretending right now? I don't understand. He's in a friendly environment. What?
World of politics that we are somehow going for a theocracy. We're not. I don't know a single person in the entire movement that wants a theocracy. All we want is to be able to influence our culture as Christians.
Well, you could always do that. He doesn't want to influence the culture. That's not what he's saying. Just come out and say it. Be honest. Don't be a lying shitbag for once in your life. Be honest about what you believe. You don't want to influence culture. You want to enforce your beliefs through the government. That's what you want to do.
Just like anyone else in this nation gets to influence the culture.
Like you're allowed to do that, just like anyone else. Rick Green can do that. Each individual member of this congregation can do that. And they should. Absolutely. You should be voting. Everyone should vote. That's not what we're complaining about. We're complaining about you using this tax-exempt institution to influence elections. Yeah, here's another thing. I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent here. One of my big complaints about how the church acted in Germany in the 1930s is about the Catholic Church, what the Catholic Church did, okay? The Catholic Church has this thing that I didn't actually know about called Concordats. Now, Concordats are basically treaties between the Catholic government, basically, like the Holy See, the Vatican. It's treaties between the Vatican and foreign governments, like Germany, for example. Now, the Catholic Church has a few levers that they can pull to get what they want. What does the Catholic Church want? In an ideal world, the Catholic Church wants to completely control the government. Small governments, say like, I don't know, Trinidad and Tobago or whatever, just smaller places. In African countries, they would like to control the governments there, right? But they're sovereign government, so they can only do so much. They can only control them to a certain degree, right? So they sign these treaties, these concordats with these countries, Germany and all of these other places. They sign these agreements to retain some of their political power, allowing them, as they did in Germany, to continue to run the school system, so they could continue imposing religion on school children. They also wanted to make it illegal for people to wear like Catholic clothing, bishop hats or whatever, unless they are like a certified bishop by the Catholic Church, and a whole bunch of other things. And in trade, the Catholic Church will offer a few things. First and foremost, they'll offer support for the existing government. But more importantly, in a scorched earth type of situation, the Catholic Church has the ability to, and threatens to, instruct their people to vote against the leader that they're signing the concordat with. So the Catholic Church is basically holding a gun to countries' heads and saying, you as the leader are going to let us control the educational system and impose a whole bunch of laws on people, ban people who have been excommunicated from entering the workforce in this country, or whatever other thing. And if you don't agree to that, then I'm going to instruct people to vote for the other guy. They are influencing elections. They are pushing elections the other direction. That's what concordats are for. That's what they do. And on top of that, concordats are forever. So when this politician wins the support of the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church decides to not endorse his opponent, or maybe even endorse him, he spends his 4, 8, 12, 20 years, 50 years in office, or whatever it happens to be, and then he leaves, but the concordat remains. That is one of the biggest problems with concordats. And Germany signed a concordat with the Pope. It's called the Reichskonkordat, and it was the reason why Hitler won. If Catholics had opposed Hitler, or at least endorsed human rights, or anything at all, it would have turned out differently. If the Pope had taken a hard line stance on human rights and said, human rights come above all else, and any political party or candidate that doesn't respect human rights should not be voted for. If he had done that, there wouldn't be an acts of evil section in my book about this subject. There wouldn't be a need to draw attention to Father Kuhn, I believe in Bucharest, who famously went around with Nazi, battalions and screamed, "In the name of Christ, fire," when they aimed their guns at Jewish victims. That shit wouldn't have happened if the Pope had made it very clear that he did not believe in a violation of human rights like that. But that's not what happened. The Pope signed a pledge of loyalty. Okay, every pastor, every priest, every bishop in Germany swore an oath of loyalty to Hitler before it was even necessary. They gave him legitimacy because he promised they'd be allowed to control the school system in Germany. The Catholic Church, as Jasper Proxy says, is not a fan of human rights, never been a fan of human rights. They're a fan of control. And as Dietrich Bonhoeffer said on this exact subject, quote, "The Catholic Church makes everything good dependent upon the Catholic Church. Without realizing it, Catholic dogma makes everything ideal dependent upon Catholicism." So they believe that if however much power they retain in a country, at whatever cost it takes. It doesn't matter what it costs. It's beneficial to the people for the Catholic Church to have some control, period, to have a presence. That's the same kind of thinking that Rick Green is engaging in right now. He doesn't care what degree of control or what things he has control over, as long as he has control over the government, or his movement, more specifically. As long as his movement has control over the government will be a better place. By definition, it will be better. Like Bonhoeffer said, Catholic dogma makes everything ideal dependent upon Catholicism. The country cannot be good unless Rick Green controls it, though he's not a Catholic, he's a Protestant, I think. Rick Green believes, by definition, the country is only good if it is Christian, and it's only Christian if it's good. Point here is that Rick Green is arguing exactly what the Nazis argued. Again, word for word, what the Nazis argued.
That's all we're asking for. Now, for that to work, that means Christians have to actually influence the culture and not just leave it to people that don't share our values. Otherwise, the nation will begin to reflect values that are not reflected in the Bible. Does that make sense?
Like, Christians have always been allowed to vote. What are you talking about? That's never been the problem. The problem is the institution that you are a part of that is tax exempt, imposing instructions upon people, instructing them to vote for this person or whatever, or not vote for that one.
Make sense? So it's really not complicated, right? That's why Hank brought in the country boy, all right? So that I could do it just real simple, right? Garbage in, garbage out, good stuff in, good stuff out. And we've got the good stuff. We've got truth.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Good by definition because it's Christian. No questions asked. It just is.
That produces prosperity and liberty and all of the things people say they want in the community and in the country. We've got it. It's in God's word. And for us to shelve that and to set that aside and say, well, I don't want to be political.
No one told Christians that they cannot be political. They should be political. The institution should not be political.
Really? You don't? Well, show me where the Bible says not to be political.
Are you shitting me right now? Really? Is he joking? Is he for real right now? Okay, I will. I'll show him where the Bible says that. Romans 13, quote, verse 1, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there's no authority except from God, and those authorities that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists authority resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. John 18:36, Jesus answered, my kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here. This is part of a set of verses that basically says, be no part of this world. Be a part of my kingdom, which is not from this world. And wait a minute, what's the... Mark 12. They sent him to some Pharisees and some Herodians to trap him in what he said. And they came and said to him, Teacher, we know that you are sincere and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality, but teach the way of God in accordance with truth. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? I.e., is it part of your religious belief that you can pay taxes? Should we pay them or should we not? But knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, why are you putting me to the test? Bring me a denarius and let me see it. And they brought one. Then he said to them, whose head is this and whose title? They answered, the emperor's. Jesus said to them, give to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's. And they were utterly amazed at him. Okay, well, wow, they were easy to impress. Anyway, the point is, not just Paul, but Jesus also consistently said, be no part of this system of things. You should respect the governing authorities, follow their instructions, pay your taxes, and focus on the kingdom and what you can do for the kingdom.
And for us to shelve that and to set that aside and say, well, I don't want to be political. Really? You don't? Well, show me where the Bible says not to be political.
Okay, you should be political, but the institution shouldn't be. And, at the very least, those Bible verses prove that, right? That the institution of the church should not be. It should be focused on God.
Where did this lie from the pit of hell come from?
The Bible?
The pit of hell. When whoever came up with that phrase, we don't want politics in our pulpit, what they actually said was, we want to limit God to only impact certain areas of our life, not our entire life. That's what they're really saying.
You think maybe they were just following the Bible? Is that possible? God, this guy is such a colossal scumbag. I don't believe that he's unaware. I think he knows what he is doing and is doing it intentionally, which makes this that much worse.
They just preach the gospel. What they're trying to do is redefine the gospel.
No one's trying to do that.
To only mean Jesus loves everybody. That's it. End of story. Instead of go and...
Okay, no. That's not what's happening here. They're trying to redefine the laws to say Jesus' opinion on whether he loves me or not is irrelevant to the legal system. If you want to believe that Jesus doesn't love everybody the way the Bible says, then you can believe that, but you can't impose that upon me. That's what they're saying. And this guy is upset by it. You know what's happening, really? Your right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose. He is trying to swing his fist. He is trying to impose his will on the people around him. And he is getting upset when people tell him that he can't do that.
Make disciples of all nations, teaching them to obey only those things that aren't politically controversial. Why did this side of the room figure out that was not accurate and you guys were totally silent over here? Let's go, wake up over here. Teach them to obey everything I commanded. And Jesus spent a lot of time talking about politics.
Okay. I'm not sure what he's talking about. He did? He talked about politics a lot? No, he didn't. I don't remember him talking about politics. Am I wrong here? I mean, if what you mean by politics is he talked about the Mosaic law, then yeah, I suppose, because religion had been enshrined in law at the time. But I think everything that Jesus talked about was just religious. It was all about religion, not about politics, right? And politics was like a side issue. It was just kind of like a consequence of talking about some of these subjects, not explicitly. He didn't explicitly set out to talk about politics, right? He thinks telling people they have the right to live how they want as long as they aren't hurting anyone is hurting people. Yeah, see, that's the thing. At its core, what he's complaining about is that people are allowed to get married if they're gay. He's upset that the government is not imposing his religious beliefs on you. Not Christian religious beliefs, his religious beliefs. So, anyway, the point is, he's a colossal scumbag.
He spent a lot of time talking to the politicians. So whoever said we don't want politics in our pulpit, or we as Christians don't want to get to be, nationalist, or we don't want to be political, or we don't want to be influenced by all those, lie from the pit of hell. The Bible specifically tells us to occupy until he returns.
No, it does not. Oh my God, dude. This drives me nuts. This drives me insane when people say this, okay? I researched this heavily because I want to know. He's talking about a set of verses where Jesus tells a parable. And the parable goes like this. I'm going to get this wrong, so forgive me. I'm going to give you the rough idea. A king is going off to conquer a new area, and as he's leaving, he finds 3 subjects, and he says to them, I'm giving each of you, 10 pieces of gold or whatever. And when I come back, I want you to give that back to me. I want to see what you did with it. The first guy was scared shitless of the king because he'd seen him cut people's arms off and shit. So he buried the gold in the ground until the king returned to make sure that it stayed safe. He digs it up, gives it back to the king, and the king said, really? You didn't do anything with this? You just let it sit in the ground? Off with his head. The second guy says, I went to the market and traded with your money, and I produced 20 pieces of gold for you rather than just the 10 you gave me. He said, perfect. I will give you charge over 20 cities or whatever. And the third guy did something else with it. I don't even remember what. The point is, the king in this parable basically told the people to wait until he comes back. Just wait till I get back and prepare for my return by basically keeping this money safe. Now that quote that I just gave you, prepare for me to come back or whatever, wait for me to come back, in one Bible translation, that translates to occupy until I return. But who's supposed to occupy? It was just some people from a parable. What does that have to do with Jesus? Jesus never told people that, or all right, let me rephrase. Jesus never told Christians that they need to occupy the government until he comes back. Where is he getting this? He is so completely full of shit. So already in this video that he's giving us, he's already either misunderstood the Bible or not even realized that it spoke on these subjects. He's done that like twice now. The first time, one of the times was when he said the Bible doesn't speak on religious or political involvement, except it did. And this is the second one. Is he lying or dumb as dog shit? It seems to me it has to be one of the two, right? And these people, these congregants, parishioners, they eat this up. They will believe anything that he tells them. This is like truly disgusting to me. Anyway, there's something else I wanted to say. I'm trying to remember what it was. Yeah, all right. I guess I'll leave it there for the moment. Shit. Okay.
The Bible specifically tells us to surrender all and live out our biblical principles in every area of our life, not to leave anything off limits. And there's story after
Yeah, no, people should be living their life as Christians. Absolutely, I agree. That's not what anybody is complaining about. Nobody ever said you can't do that. He knows better.
story after story from the Old Testament through the New Testament of how to do that. And we've let these people silence us. We've let them neuter the church. And
no, we live in a society where there are a lot of different cultures and beliefs and people and feelings. Not the same. Also, I'm sorry, one more side note here. I found out recently, do you know the Twitter user Cat Turd? Have you heard of that guy, Cat Turd? Do you know why he has the name Cat Turd? It's because, and he recounts this story fondly, his brother convinced him to eat cat shit when he was little. And at family reunions today, they still call him Cat Shit. Hey, Cat Shit, how you doing? That is 100% real. That is real. He thinks it's funny. He laughs about it. Oh, they're fondly calling me Cat Shit. These people are so fucking I swear. Oh my God. All right, I'm sorry. That was a little bit of a deviation. You know, I get being kind of suckered into doing that, but being proud of it and talking about it, okay.